Growing up, I always thought marriage was supposed to be an unbreakable, lifelong bond. My parents seemed to have this flawless relationship filled with deep love and commitment. This ideal shaped my perspective, and I brought it with me into my marriage with Sophia. We met during college. She was outgoing and I was reserved. Our contrasting personalities balanced each other out, and we quickly fell for each other, excitedly planning our future together. We tied the knot right after graduation, brimming with dreams and optimism. Life was busy but rewarding, with our two wonderful daughters, Emma and Olivia, at the heart of everything we did. Sophia chose to keep her maiden name, a decision I respected as a mark of her independence. We built a comfortable life together, and I truly believed we had the perfect family. Then, life hit us with a shocking twist that shattered our seemingly perfect world. Tonight, Sophia is with her lover. She admitted to the affair after I discovered text messages between them. At first, I didn't see this as a pivotal moment for our family. Since that revelation, our lives have been in turmoil. Tonight, she left dressed to the nines with an overnight bag, awkwardly attempting to kiss me on the cheek, a gesture I managed to dodge. Accepting her betrayal is still a struggle for me. What does this say about me? Even though we live in a modern world, grappling with this harsh reality has been tough. After navigating through various stages of grief, I've come to terms with the fact that I have to deal with her decision, even though it's far from what I wanted. Now, I need to figure out how to handle the fallout. My name is Michael Anderson, and my wife's name is Sophia Bennett. We have two daughters, Emma and Olivia. After discovering Sophia's infidelity, I consulted a lawyer to understand my options. I was filled with anger and frustration, and after expressing my feelings, the lawyer laid out what divorce would entail for me. Despite Texas's high rate of gun ownership, shooting a cheating spouse is illegal due to no-fault divorce laws. Family courts generally favor mothers in custody disputes unless she poses a threat. In Texas, mothers usually get custody, the house, the furniture, the car, and financial support. As the man filing for divorce, I'd likely lose the house and most of the custody, seeing my kids only one night a week, every other weekend, and 2 weeks in the summer. I'd be paying for Sophia to enjoy her time with another man while I squeeze into a cramped space, hoping my kids won't forget me. I asked my lawyer if I could evict Sophia. She looked at me and said, "That's a terrible idea, Michael. She could get a court order to come back home, claiming a hostile environment that's harmful to the kids, and you'd end up being forced out." So, I'm left in a dire situation. My lawyer, who I appreciate despite her steep fees, suggested a strategy I'd heard before but dismissed as a silly rumor: cheaper to keep her, or look the other way. Essentially, if I tolerate her affair, I get to keep my house, money, and more time with the kids. I tried to picture both scenarios, and the thought of losing my kids and home was a nightmare. Realizing that living without them was not an option, I had to figure out my next steps, even though my marriage vows now seemed meaningless. A few weeks later, after cooling down and resisting the urge to lash out at Sophia, I sat down with her to discuss our marriage. To my surprise, she was calm. I grabbed a beer, and we sat at the kitchen table. I started with, "How are we supposed to stay married if you want another guy?" Sophia replied, "Michael, you don't understand. I'm still your wife. I still love you. And we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. What I do with Ethan is just once a week because I need something you can't provide right now." I was frustrated. "So, I'm not giving you pleasure anymore." "Great," I said, my voice laced with frustration. "No, that's not what I mean," she said, trying to calm me down. "Well, that's what it sounds like," I shot back, my anger rising. "Michael, I love you and would never deny you anything," she said, trying to reassure me. "Oh, thanks. That really makes it all better. I'm thrilled to get pity entertainment now and then," I replied with heavy sarcasm. Needing to escape, I went to the kitchen for another beer. Sophia placed her hands on my shoulders, trying to comfort me. "Michael, I know I've messed up. Let's go to the bedroom and I'll show you how much I still love you," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "Why would you want to do that? You just said I don't satisfy you. Why don't you go to your boyfriend instead?" I couldn't handle it any longer and stormed off to my basement office, slamming the door behind me. And so began my life with a wife who had no remorse for her infidelity. While she was out, I moved all her belongings to the basement bedroom. When she came home, all hell broke loose. "Michael, where are my clothes?" she yelled, her voice echoing through the house. "Since you didn't want to be with me and were busy thinking about your boyfriend, I figured it was best for us to sleep in separate rooms." I told her, "Your stuff is in the basement. You're welcome," as I walked away. Now, she wouldn't have to worry about uncomfortable moments with me anymore. After that, the house felt icy and distant. What was I supposed to do now? There was no way I was going to sleep in that basement room. As soon as Michael left, I rearranged everything. The kids, Emma and Olivia, looked on, bewildered. Once I finished, I started preparing Michael's favorite dinner: meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and peas. By the time Michael came home, the meal was almost ready. I asked him to get the kids cleaned up and ready for dinner. He did, and we sat down to eat. The girls chatted away, but Michael only spoke to them, avoiding eye contact with me and not saying a word. After dinner, Michael cleaned up as was our usual routine. He then got the girls ready for bed, read them a story, and turned out the lights. He went to our home office to type away on the computer. When he came upstairs, I was already in bed. He took a shower, brushed his teeth, and got into bed without a word. I tried to snuggle up to him, but he pulled my hand away and tucked the sheet between us. For the next few weeks, things stayed the same. The house felt cold and unwelcoming. I convinced myself that Michael would come around eventually. He'd realize that my time with Ethan didn't mean anything to our marriage. I just needed to be patient. A few months later, I still hadn't had any physical contact with Sophia. My frustration was growing each day. To cope, I started running at 5 a.m. The first few days were grueling, but by the third week, it became easier. I began to enjoy those early mornings and gradually increased my distance, eventually running over 6 miles a day. I lost some weight and felt physically better, though emotionally, I was still struggling. I decided it was time for a change and thought about buying a trailer and truck for camping. I knew Sophia would question it, but I had a comeback ready. "Why do you need a boyfriend?" I took the kids to an RV show, and they were thrilled. They started making plans for each trailer we saw, dreaming about camping and traveling. Despite having a budget, I quickly realized that modern camping trailers and trucks were quite pricey. After much thought, I decided to buy a used, 2-year-old Grand Design Transcend model with bunk beds for the girls and a double bed for me. It had all the features we needed: 1.5 bathrooms, 2 TVs, and air conditioning. The trailer was nearly 37 feet long. Next, I found a 2-year-old GMC 2500 HD Crew cab Denali with low mileage and a diesel engine, sold by an elderly couple. They had health issues and planned to spend time in Portugal instead of camping. I got a good deal and bought the truck. I invested about $80,000 in the truck and trailer, planning to take my kids on trips around the country. I wanted to show Sophia that this was an important time in our kids' lives, and she could choose to be part of it or not. If she chose not to, it would be her loss. A few months later, with Sophia still involved with Ethan, she was asked, "So, Sophia, your husband and kids went camping. Why didn't you go?" Ethan asked. "I'm upset with Michael for buying that trailer," Sophia replied. "So, you don't like camping?" Ethan probed further. "It's not about that. He's trying to control me because he's angry about us," she explained. "I told him it's my body and I can do what I want." Ethan laughed. "Didn't you say he agreed to this?" "Not exactly. I told him I was going to do it. He found out when he saw my texts and discovered condoms in my purse. We had a big fight. I told him he doesn't own me." Ethan continued, "So you caught him by surprise. How did he react?" "He just shook his head and walked away." "Are you planning to leave him?" Ethan asked. "No, I love him, our kids, and our life. I don't want to change anything," Sophia insisted. "Don't you think Michael might object to you seeing another man?" Ethan warned. "He'll eventually realize it doesn't mean anything," Sophia said firmly. Ethan cautioned, "He might not be happy playing second fiddle." "Why would you say that?" Sophia asked. "No man likes knowing his woman is cheating," Ethan replied. "Does he want to watch us?" Sophia asked. "No, he's not like that," Sophia said, dismissing the idea. "So, you haven't been with him?" Ethan asked. Not for a while, Sophia admitted. What can I do to get him to touch me again? She wondered. You're in a tough spot. If you want to keep him, you need to act fast. Maybe we should take a break so you can fix things with him, Ethan suggested. Do you think that's the right move? Sophia pondered. For someone who's supposed to be smart, you're clueless sometimes, Ethan said bluntly. Just try to win him back, he urged. Sophia fell silent, mulling over Ethan's advice. Do you like your life now? Ethan asked. Of course, Sophia replied. Then go home, reconcile with your husband, and hope it's not too late. Otherwise, you might end up alone, Ethan warned. Sophia left Ethan's place, deep in thought about his advice. She wondered if she had pushed Michael too far, and whether he would even consider taking her back. I packed up the trailer, and the girls prepared their things for a week-long camping trip to a state park in the eastern Carolinas. The weather forecast promised perfect temperatures and a bit of light rain. Expecting that Sophia wouldn't be joining us, I planned the trip accordingly. Once the girls were ready, we loaded up the truck and hit the road. The week went wonderfully. The weather was great, and we enjoyed hiking and other fun activities. One day at the water park was a huge hit. Surprisingly, the girls seemed less affected by Sophia's absence than I had anticipated. They had noticed their mom spending less time at home and with them. I reassured them that Sophia's behavior wasn't their fault. It was all about Sophia's choices. Damn it, I'm late, Sophia said, frustrated. Michael and the girls had gone camping, and she found a note on the kitchen table saying, "We're going south for a week, back next Sunday." That was all it said. She called Ethan. They're camping. What am I supposed to do? Sophia asked. You messed up. You'd better hope Michael comes back with the kids. If not, you're in deep trouble. There's nothing I can do to help. You need to keep your family together. Good luck, Ethan said before hanging up. The week flew by, and by Sunday night, the girls and I were heading home. I had to work the next day and had planned summer activities for the girls, hoping Sophia would be able to help with driving and pickups. When we got home, I was surprised to see Sophia waiting to greet the girls. They hugged her and then went to their rooms with their dirty clothes. I started cleaning the camper while Sophia hovered around, pretending to be interested. I'm glad you're home. It's been quiet here all week, she said. I replied, I asked if you were going out tonight, and she said no, adding that her family was her priority. I found this hard to believe, but decided to talk about the week's plans instead. A few months later, my life had taken a strange turn. I had an uneasy truce with Sophia. Despite her affair, I chose not to divorce her to avoid losing custody of the kids. Texas family law seemed to favor infidelity. Both Sophia and I knew that separating would hurt the kids, so I decided to stay married until they were grown. After learning about Sophia's affair, I went into defense mode. I bought a travel trailer and took the girls camping, much to Sophia's displeasure. She saw it as an act of revenge, but I didn't care. I needed to show her that actions have consequences. Since starting to see Ethan, my schedule hadn't changed much. We met once or twice a week, usually in the afternoons. We'd have fun, chat a bit, and then go on with our lives. I enjoyed my time with Ethan. It was a welcome change from being with Michael. Now that Michael knew about Ethan, he refused to touch me or be intimate. The atmosphere in the house grew colder, and Michael became very secretive about his activities outside. According to state law, infidelity doesn't impact divorce proceedings. If we divorced, Sophia would have the upper hand because the courts don't consider cheating. This made me question my role in all this. If Sophia could have a boyfriend with no consequences, why couldn't I have a girlfriend? It seemed only fair. I started engaging in activities I enjoyed and socializing more. I avoided online dating sites due to safety concerns and focused on hobbies I liked. I joined a bicycling club, began running again, learned a musical instrument, and hiked with my kids. Over time, I met some nice women who set me up on dates. That's how I met Isabella. Isabella is 3 years younger, divorced, and has a 4-year-old daughter. She's an orthodontist, tall, dark-haired, blue-eyed, attractive, slim, and has a great sense of humor. We got to know each other through the cycling club and went out a few times. We both were looking for fun, not commitment. I invited Isabella and her daughter to go luxury camping with my kids, which Sophia never enjoyed. I decided not to tell Sophia about Isabella, figuring that if the state courts didn't care, why should I? But a year later, I'd reached my breaking point. I needed to confront the ongoing issues in our marriage. Sophia clearly wasn't ready to be a faithful wife and mother, and I wanted to have a serious talk with Isabella. So, one Friday night, I bought a bottle of wine for Sophia and a six-pack of beer for myself. I handed Sophia a glass of wine and asked, "Are you in love with him?" Sophia took a long sip of her drink, avoiding my gaze. "Come on, Sophia. You started this. It's time to finish it," I said firmly. The kids were in the TV room, so it was a good time to talk. "So, how do you want to handle this? The easy way or the expensive way?" I asked, trying to push the conversation forward. "What are you talking about, Michael?" she replied, clearly puzzled. "How long have you been cheating while we were married?" I asked bluntly. "Why does that matter?" she deflected, trying to dodge the question. "Why change anything now?" I shook my head in frustration. "I know what you've been up to. Do you have any idea what I've been doing?" I hinted, suggesting there were secrets of my own. "Well, you and the girls go camping, you bike a lot, and you've been busy," she said, listing my usual activities. "Yes, and I've done a few other things," I replied, implying there was more she didn't know. Sophia looked at me with a mix of amusement and apprehension, clearly wary of escalating the situation. She thought that if we divorced, I'd be the one to suffer the most, and the kids would suffer too, ensuring I'd do whatever it took to shield them from pain. She relied on this belief to justify her behavior, knowing I'd go to great lengths for our children. However, she didn't realize I had my own plans. "Sophia, you still haven't answered my question. Do you love him? Are you planning to keep seeing him?" I pressed. "Michael, I don't really have a boyfriend," Sophia said, denying it once again. "For God's sake, Sophia, cut the crap. How long have you been with Ethan? And how many others were there before him? Are our daughters even mine? You've been a terrible wife. I'm unhappy with you and our marriage. It hasn't been a real marriage for the past 2 years, and that changes tonight," I declared. "What? What are you talking about?" she asked, bewildered. "Oh, stop with the sweetheart act," I continued. "To you, I'm just a security blanket doing all the boring stuff while you have fun with your boyfriend. We haven't been intimate in ages, and I don't see that changing," I said, laying out the reality. Sophia stayed silent, so I pressed on. "It's time we do something about this." "What are you talking about?" she asked again. "I'm talking about ending this sham. You need to move out." "I'm tired of being used," I said firmly. Sophia looked up in shock. "I'm not moving out of our house, Michael." "That's nonsense," she said, refusing to accept it. "It's clear you'd rather be with your boyfriend than be part of this family." "Decide what you want, Sophia," I said, finishing my beer. I walked to the kitchen sink, feeling my blood pressure rise. I needed to get out of there. I had thrown down the gauntlet and wanted to see how Sophia would react. She thought Michael wouldn't move out, and she had the advantage. She just needed to be patient, believing everything would fall into place. She thought if she could get Michael to make love to her again, everything would be fine. She loved him but needed Ethan too. Sophia felt good with Ethan and believed everything would work out. She thought that eventually, Michael would accept her return and that their relationship would get back on track. But for now, she was set on keeping both relationships. As for me, if Sophia thought I'd tolerate her behavior indefinitely, she was mistaken. It was time for consequences. I started managing our family finances more actively. I set up a separate account for myself, transferring half of our cash reserves into it, along with my paycheck and bonuses. Each month, I transferred money to our household account to cover half of the bills. Sophia needed to realize the perks were over, and she had to contribute to our living expenses. I wasn't about to subsidize her spending on her boyfriend, even though they weren't staying in hotels. I didn't want Michael to know I'd consulted a lawyer, but I found a family law attorney who explained that under the state's no-fault divorce laws, mothers usually get custody. Leaving the lawyer's office, I was still uncertain about how messy a potential fight with Michael could become. My mind was full of doubts and questions. Just then, Michael called, and we made plans for another camping trip the following weekend. Ava was thrilled. She loved Michael's trailer. The 3 girls stayed in the bunk beds at the back, chatting and laughing for hours, while Michael and I kept the bedroom door closed at the front. I couldn't understand why Michael's wife didn't appreciate him. He was a great guy, handsome, smart, talented, energetic, with a great smile and a wicked sense of humor. He made me and the kids laugh and clearly cared about everyone. Sophia's loss was my gain. I had divorced an idiot who didn't want to be a father, and now I had a wonderful daughter who was my world. When I met Michael, I saw a man who needed care. Grace, who introduced us, had explained how Michael's wife mocked him and took him for granted. Knowing our state's divorce laws, I understood he was cornered. Divorcing Sophia meant losing his kids, so he had to endure until they were grown. I wasn't looking for a serious relationship, but I needed a casual friend to relieve stress. Michael turned out to be perfect for that role. Camping with him and his daughters was an added bonus for Ava and me. We had a great time, and Ava adored his girls, who treated her like a little sister. Our longest trip was 9 days in Florida, near Disney. We spent 2 days at the park, did some hiking, and enjoyed the beach. It was a fantastic vacation. Michael and his girls loved it, and we were planning more adventures together. While Michael and the girls were off camping in Florida, I took the opportunity to visit my lawyer, Lily Clark, to clarify my custody rights. Lily, in her early 50s with over 2 decades of experience in family law, was a no-nonsense professional. I needed reassurance about my custody rights. Lily, I need to confirm my custody rights. Last time, you said if Michael and I divorced, I'd get the kids, the house, and monthly payments from him, I said, seeking reassurance. Yes, we discussed that, Lily replied. Generally, mothers do get custody, but there are exceptions. If your husband can prove he's the more suitable parent, he could end up with primary custody. The courts don't automatically favor the mother if she's deemed unsuitable. Are there any issues I should be aware of? I asked. Not specifically, but you did mention Michael spends a lot of time with the girls, Lily said. Yeah, he takes them camping and attends their school events. I don't enjoy outdoor activities and miss some events due to my demanding job, I explained. Lily rolled her eyes, sensing my excuses. Family courts could see through such justifications and would prioritize the best parent. Sophia, unless you become a more proactive mother, your chances of getting custody are slim. Are you seeing another man? Lily inquired directly. Yes, a few times a week, but not for long, I confessed. If you're not honest with yourself and me, you'll jeopardize your custody chances, Lily warned. How much time do you really spend with your boyfriend? I admitted the true extent of my time with Ethan. Lily frowned, realizing this would paint me as neglecting my family for my boyfriend. This was not going to bode well in court. Later that Saturday night, after the kids had gone to bed, I grabbed a beer and poured Sophia a glass of wine. She glanced at me, knowing this meant I wanted to talk. It's a little late for a beer, isn't it? She asked. It's only 9 o'clock, I replied, taking a sip of my beer. The time for confronting the situation had come. I needed to lay everything out and see where we stood. I want to talk about our marriage and our daily responsibilities, I began. Sophia looked puzzled. What do you mean? She asked. We need to clarify what each of us is responsible for, I said, pulling out a notebook. I've made a list, and I'm sure you'll have some input. Let's start. Sophia took a large sip of her wine as I laid out my plan. We need to sort out our finances. I'll cover the truck and camper, but household and kids' expenses should be shared. I think we should create a budget to clarify this. Sophia looked overwhelmed. I presented a reasonable breakdown of expenses, making it clear I wouldn't fund her relationship with. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to keep paying for everything while she enjoyed other activities. We talked until 1 a.m. I yawned, stretched, and told Sophia I was done for the day. I left the paperwork and bills on the desk, then headed for a shower and bed. The next morning, Sophia was fuming. What the hell? Michael wants to split our finances, making each of us contribute half for the house and kids' tuition. He knows I don't make as much as he does. I nodded sympathetically. So, Sophia, why did you want to see me so soon? Are you planning to file for divorce? No, Sophia said. But last Saturday night, Michael wanted to talk about our finances. He wants each of us to contribute 50% to household expenses. Lily's eyes widened, her eyebrows raised slightly. Tell me exactly what you and he discussed. Sophia recounted the conversation in detail. I asked questions and took notes. It became clear that Sophia was avoiding the consequences of her actions. She had been seeing Ethan for almost 3 years, and her husband had discovered the affair 2 years ago. He realized he'd be paying for her infidelity and risk losing the kids and money. Michael was quietly building a strong case for custody. Sophia couldn't prove she was the best parent since she spent considerable time with Ethan, while Michael was actively involved with their children. Family courts took this seriously. Michael was preparing for a separation agreement, which would signal the breakdown of the marriage and help divide responsibilities. I tried to explain to Sophia that things were not going well for her. Her husband was setting up a case to show the court they were living separately and each contributing to half of the expenses. Michael, making more money, could afford to take care of the kids even after the separation. Sophia was determined to get Michael back in bed and acting like her husband again. She felt that if she could rekindle their physical relationship, he might overlook her affair. Sophia believed that Ethan was just a distraction, and she would eventually return to her marriage. A chill ran down my spine at her resolve. I wasn't interested in being with someone unfaithful. After the girls went to bed, Sophia had been giving me strange looks, hinting she wanted to be close again. I didn't care. All I wanted was for her to take care of the girls and the house. Once the girls went to university, I planned to end this sham of a marriage. Sophia could move on to her next husband, who could deal with her infidelities. A few months later, I was fed up. I've been thinking about ending this marriage. I can't tolerate our situation anymore, I told Isabella. Isabella and I were starting to see a future together, so I needed to address Sophia's situation. I decided to have a heart-to-heart talk with Ethan about Sophia and their future. On Wednesday at 6 in the evening, I waited by Ethan's car. When he saw me, he dropped his phone and muttered, "Damn you. You better pick it up. Phones are expensive," I said. Ethan retrieved his phone, clearly expecting a confrontation. "Don't worry, Ethan. I'm not here to hurt you. We need to talk," I continued. I nodded toward my truck. "Get in. I'll buy you a beer, and we'll settle some things." We drove to an Irish pub and found a quiet corner. I ordered an IPA and gestured for Ethan to do the same. His fear was palpable. "Okay, we need to work something out," I began, trying to keep my tone steady. Ethan shifted nervously, glancing at me. "Just answer a few questions honestly. How long have you been seeing Sophia?" "A little over 3 years," he replied, looking uncomfortable. I exhaled quietly, relieved that he wasn't directly involved in my life beyond his relationship with Sophia. "Why did you and Sophia start this affair?" "We met, talked, and she mentioned she was unhappy with her marriage. It kind of just happened," he explained, avoiding eye contact. "Do you have feelings for her?" I asked, pressing further. "It's complicated. I care about her, but I don't want her to leave you. I like the arrangement we have. No strings attached," Ethan admitted. "How many other women are you seeing?" I inquired. "Not really seeing anyone else seriously," he said, clearly avoiding the question. I realized Sophia might be relying on him as a fallback, but that wasn't my issue. "Just so you know, be prepared for her to show up with a suitcase soon. There are consequences for being involved with someone else's spouse. I won't interfere with your life, but don't expect me to hold back," I warned. I stood up, leaving $40 on the table. "Be careful where you tread," I added before walking out. I needed to clear my mind, so I headed over to Ethan's apartment. He let me in with a wary glance, and we spent a few hours together until he said he had an appointment. As I was leaving, he hastily pushed me out, eager to end the encounter. A week later, I decided to proceed with the divorce. My attorney had the papers ready, and I arranged for them to be delivered to Sophia at home. I had collected enough evidence to pursue full custody of the girls. Isabella, who had grown close to me, was ready to step into my life once things settled. After the divorce, I planned to ask her to move in with me. That evening, after the girls were in bed, I handed Sophia a glass of wine. She sensed the gravity of the moment. "You need to be home tomorrow morning. There's a delivery for you," I said, trying to remain calm. "What's this about?" she asked, leaning back and sighing deeply. "I had a feeling something like this might happen. Why can't we just take some time apart instead of going straight to divorce?" she suggested, seeking a way out. You set this in motion. You knew I wouldn't tolerate your affair, and that divorce courts don't factor in infidelity. You were hoping to get custody and make me foot the bill. All I wanted was a loyal partner. Now it's time for the consequences, I replied, struggling to keep my emotions in check. I stood up, grabbed a beer, and returned to the table. Let's try to settle things now rather than dragging it out with lawyers, I proposed, hoping for a reasonable discussion. Michael, I don't want a divorce. I love you and our family, Sophia said, her voice filled with desperation. I held up my hand to stop her. Your actions have shown otherwise. You've chosen Ethan over me. Sophia's expression hardened. I'll fight for custody of the girls. You'll only get to see them on weekends. You'll still have to support us. Stop this divorce. We can make things work. I wanted that 1.5 years ago. Not anymore. You've done too much damage, I said. Are you willing to give up Ethan? She hesitated, silent. Let's make a deal. I'll continue to have my time with Ethan, and you'll have your time with the kids. I'll even join you for family activities if you're willing to work on this, she offered, trying to negotiate. I was on the edge. Why are you making deals now? I don't want to be with someone who has abandoned our family for someone else. Don't lose your kids over a few hours with Ethan. Sophia looked desperate. I love you and the kids. Please don't do this. If you come back to me, I'll prove how much you mean to me. Do you love me enough to give up Ethan? I asked, needing a clear answer. She stared at her hands, unable to respond. I know what I should do, she finally said. Don't go to work tomorrow. Good night, I said, feeling a sense of finality. I went to bed. The next morning, I got up early to prepare the girls for school. We didn't speak before they left, and their silence spoke volumes. As I was lost in thought, the doorbell rang. I answered it to find a middle-aged woman in jeans and a sports jacket holding an ID badge. Good morning. Are you Sophia Bennett? The process server asked. Yes, I am, Sophia replied, her voice wavering. Ma'am, I need to verify your identity. May I see some ID, please? The server requested. Sophia retrieved her driver's license from her purse, and the server took a photo of it with her phone. She then handed Sophia a large brown envelope. Ma'am, you've been served. The server took a quick photo of Sophia holding the envelope and left promptly. Sophia stood there, stunned, as the reality of the situation sank in. She walked back inside, placed the envelope on the dining room table, and stared at it. Maybe if she left it unopened, it wouldn't be real. Could Michael really be ending their marriage? Doubts swirled in her mind about whether her time with Ethan had been worth it. What was she supposed to do now? After grabbing a glass of water, Sophia sat at the table and slowly opened the envelope. Inside were documents that would profoundly alter her life. She questioned why Michael couldn't just let her have her freedom. She had envisioned a future where, after Ethan, she and Michael would reconnect, travel, and enjoy their lives once their daughters were grown. Sophia had justified her occasional time with Ethan, believing it didn't interfere with her family life. She thought it was insignificant to Michael. Admitting the affair had been a mistake. She should have kept it hidden. Now everything was spiraling out of control. She decided to call her attorney, Lily, and arrange an urgent meeting. When Sophia arrived at my office, she was clearly distressed. Her husband had reached his limit and was pursuing a divorce. From my perspective, Michael had been remarkably patient, and his divorce petition was thorough, making a compelling case for him to secure full custody of their 2 children and retain the family home. Michael had meticulously documented Sophia's neglect of the family due to her affair with Ethan Green, including missed school events, family vacations, and daily routines. Photos of Sophia and Ethan, captured by friends, showing their public displays of affection were included in the evidence. As I reviewed the documents with Sophia, it became apparent that she had only given me part of the story, trying to justify her actions. The courts typically aren't swayed by infidelity alone, but neglecting her children and husband for Ethan would severely damage her case. I needed to prepare her for the likely outcome. Sophia, have you read through this petition? I asked, studying her closely. She stammered, I skimmed it. How do I stop this divorce? I want to keep our family together. I struggled to hide my concern. Michael held the upper hand, and it would be a difficult battle to level the playing field. Sophia, I need to consult with your husband's attorney before I can give you specific advice. Remember, we've talked about what courts consider when awarding custody. From what I see, you might not get the custody you're hoping for. What do you mean? Sophia asked, bewildered. He can't just walk away from me and the kids. You've overlooked our discussions, I said firmly. The law permits divorce regardless of your wishes. Michael is determined to end the marriage and secure custody of the children. Sophia leaned back, fidgeting with her hands. This is all because of Ethan, isn't it? Michael's jealous. I didn't think he'd care so much about my affair. How can I fix this? There's no fix, only damage control, I replied. What do you think should have happened? Sophia remained silent. Michael has requested that you move out of the marital home by the time the divorce is finalized. There's a 60-day cooling-off period. If you and Michael can agree on terms, the court can grant the divorce after that. Otherwise, it could take 90 to 120 days. Can I request marriage counseling? Sophia asked, clinging to a sliver of hope. You can, I said, but it must start and conclude within the cooling-off period. Do you think counseling might change Michael's mind? Sophia sighed, realizing that Michael had made up his mind about the future of their marriage. I noted that Michael had prepared meticulously for a successful divorce, backed by solid legal advice. I'll arrange a meeting with Michael and his attorney this week to discuss the situation. I promised Sophia. Good. What should I do now? She asked, her voice shaky. Go home, be with the kids, and try to talk to Michael. You're both still at home, right? I asked. Sophia nodded. Try to talk to him. Beyond that, there's not much else you can do at the moment. She stood up and walked out slowly, her shoulders slumped. My assistant Chloe walked in as Sophia left. That one looked like a deer in headlights. I guess it didn't go well? Chloe remarked. I handed Chloe the papers and asked her to schedule an appointment with Michael's attorney as soon as possible. As I was about to leave the office, my phone rang with an urgent message. Sophia's attorney wanted to schedule a meeting as soon as possible. I agreed, eager to move things forward. The attorney would call back to set a date and time. Until then, I needed to be cautious around Sophia, minimizing contact and avoiding any potential conflicts. When I got home, I saw Sophia's car in the driveway. Inside, she was with the kids, trying to engage with their homework. They glanced at me, their confusion evident. I made dinner while Sophia set the table, and we ate with the girls, their chatter the only interruption to the strained atmosphere. The rest of the week felt unnervingly normal, except Sophia was home more often, not occupied with work or Ethan. After the kids were in bed, I went to our home office to handle some errands. Sophia appeared in the doorway. Michael, can we talk? She asked. It's a bit late for that, don't you think? I replied, not looking up from my paperwork. I don't want a divorce. I want us to be a family, she said, her voice trembling. It's a little late for that, isn't it? I repeated, my patience wearing thin. How can I show you that? She asked, her tone pleading. You're the one I love. It's a little late, isn't it? I said again, frustration evident in my voice. Why won't you talk to me, Michael? I've tried so many times over the last 2 years, and you've ignored me and the kids, Sophia said, her tone shifting to one of accusation. Now I'm ready to ignore you? I want us to go to marriage counseling, she proposed. So you can spend time and money and then still divorce me? I don't think so. Go to all the therapists you want, just not with me, I retorted coldly. Michael, we can't get a divorce. The kids would get hurt, she argued. The kids will get hurt? Did you think about that while you were with Ethan? Your narcissism is showing, Sophia. I shot back. What? She asked, taken aback. For heaven's sake, go see a therapist. Better yet, pack a bag and stay with Ethan, I said, pushing past her and heading to the bedroom I had been using for months. I decided a hot shower was what I needed. As I stood under the hot jets, trying to clear my mind, Sophia opened the door and tried to enter the shower. What are you doing? I asked, startled. Please, Michael, let me in. We're family. I need you, she pleaded. You need me? I said, holding up my hand. You took me and the kids for granted, and now you want to avoid the consequences of your affair. Get out. Sophia stared at me for a moment before walking away. After finishing my shower, I checked on the kids. An hour later, I heard the doorbell ring. Crap. Who could that be? I muttered to myself. My phone buzzed with a text. Sophia had sent me 3 messages in the past hour. Crap. Ethan, baby. Who's there? Abigail, a friend, called out from the bedroom. I'll handle it. You stay here, I said as I got out of bed, put on my boxer briefs, grabbed my phone, and headed to the kitchen. I wasn't supposed to see Sophia until Thursday. What could she want now? I answered the phone, trying to keep my voice steady. Hello? It's me, honey, Sophia's voice came through. What's going on? I asked, feeling the tension rise. Open the door, she said. I hesitated, trying to figure out my next move. I had been dating Abigail for a few months, and while she was great, Sophia's unexpected presence was a complication I didn't need. I knew it was time to end things with Sophia, but not like this. Crap. Now's not a good time. I'll call you in the morning, I said, hoping to buy some time. Ethan, I just need to talk to you, Sophia insisted. I heard other voices in the background. Then Sophia said, Oh, thank you. As someone must have let her in. Someone had let Sophia in. Damn. A few minutes later, I heard a knock on the door. Ethan, it's me. Let me in, please, Sophia called out. Abigail emerged from the bedroom, wearing a t-shirt and looking puzzled. What's going on? She asked. It's an old girlfriend. Maybe she had a rough day and needs to talk, I said, trying to sound casual. Are you going to open the door? Abigail pressed. I walked to the door, peered through the peephole, and unlocked it. As I opened the door, Sophia walked in, her bag slung over her shoulder. She stopped in her tracks when she saw Abigail, who quickly put down her glass of water and hurried back to the bedroom. 10 seconds later, Abigail was dressed and leaving. Don't bother calling me, she said tersely as she exited. Sophia watched her leave and then turned to me, asking, Who was that? I shook my head. What do you want, Sophia? I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. Sophia set her bag on the couch and looked around, her eyes falling on the remnants of my meal with Abigail. She seemed to realize what was happening. I went to the bedroom, changed into jeans and a shirt, and grabbed a beer from the fridge. Sophia sat on the couch, looking increasingly uncomfortable. Why are you here tonight? We weren't supposed to meet until Thursday, I said, then put the pieces together. Your husband kicked you out, didn't he? Sophia nodded slowly. And you thought you could just stay here? I asked, incredulous. She swallowed and asked, Can I get a drink, Ethan? I handed her a glass of wine. She took a long sip. He's divorcing me, she said quietly. Oh, really? I replied, barely hiding my sarcasm. He told me he didn't want to be married to you anymore. Can you blame him? I'm surprised he put up with it as long as he did. What happened to your plan to get him back into bed? I asked, genuinely curious. He didn't want to come near me. Said he didn't want sloppy seconds, Sophia admitted. Well, you're completely screwed. In more ways than one, I said, shaking my head. So why are you here? Abigail wasn't impressed. I think it's over with her. Sophia spent the night with me. With Abigail out of the picture, I figured, why not? Sophia was always up for a good time. The next morning, Sophia was gone. Perfect. Once the divorce was finalized, she'd be busy working full-time. After dropping the girls off at school, I received an email from my attorney. Sophia's lawyer wanted to schedule a meeting later in the week. Things were progressing as planned. I needed to arrange for after-school help with the kids. There was a local woman who already helped out 3 afternoons a week. I'd have to adjust my schedule to work from home more. 2 days later, Sophia was still missing, and more of her belongings had disappeared. I assumed she was with Ethan, but I didn't care. The girls hadn't even asked about her, which was surprising. Sophia hadn't called to check on them either. When I called her parents, they were unaware of the situation and wondered why Sophia wasn't living with them. I brushed them off, saying Sophia was busy and would explain things soon. The following evening, Sophia's mother, Emily, showed up. After greeting her granddaughters, Emily sat down and directly asked, What the hell is going on? I spent 2 hours explaining the last 3 years of our marriage. Emily had many questions and eventually apologized for Sophia's actions. I didn't need her apology. I needed one from Sophia. 3 days later, Sophia was still absent. I decided to visit Ethan. I waited by his car, and when he saw me, he flinched. "I'm not here for you." "I assume Sophia is staying with you," I said. "Yes, she is," Ethan replied. "Are you here to take her home?" Ethan asked, his voice tense. "No, I just wanted to make sure she's safe," I explained. Ethan admitted, "I was hoping you'd take her home. I don't want her living with me permanently." "What? I thought you two were lovers and soulmates," I said, incredulous. "We had fun, but I told her to go home and make things right with you if she wanted to keep her family together." "Now I see she didn't," Ethan said. "Well, she's all yours now," I said firmly. "But I don't want her," Ethan insisted. "Why not? You've enjoyed having her around," I pointed out. "I don't want her all the time," Ethan said, sounding frustrated. "Why not? She likes being with you," I pressed. Ethan shouted, "I don't want her. Get her out of my apartment. Take your wife home." I smiled. "No, she's all yours." I turned and walked away, but Ethan's tone turned desperate. "Please take her. I don't need a woman with 2 kids," he pleaded. I ignored him, got into my car, and drove away, leaving him to deal with the mess he had helped create. "You should have thought of this years ago," I said to myself as I started the car and backed out of Ethan's driveway. "Tell her to come home. The kids are missing her, and her mother is worried." I left him standing there, unsure of what to do. The following day, while working from home, I heard the front door unlock. It was Sophia. I waited until she was in the kitchen before speaking. "Back for more of your stuff?" I asked. Sophia looked startled. "Michael, I didn't know you'd be here." "I'm working from home today," I said. "My car's in the garage for repairs." Sophia hesitated, clearly unsure of her next move. "What are you here for?" I pressed, feeling my patience wearing thin. "Well, I thought I might come home if that's okay with you," she said cautiously. "The girls have been wondering where you went," I replied. "I figured you were with your boyfriend. Your mom came by too. She's looking for you and probably has a lot of questions." Sophia's eyes widened. "My mother? What does she want?" "She wanted to know why you left," I said calmly. "What? What did you tell her?" Sophia's voice was tinged with panic. "The truth," I answered, watching her reaction as the reality of my words hit her. Later, my attorney and I were scheduled to meet with Sophia and her lawyer. My lawyer suggested I let Sophia handle the talking to justify her fee. In the conference room of my attorney's office, Sophia and her attorney, Lily, were already waiting. As my attorney began the proceedings, Lily interrupted. "Sophia has something to say that might simplify things." Sophia took a deep breath. "Michael, I don't want a divorce. I want us to be a family again. You know I love you and the girls. My time with him was just a way to cope with stress. It wasn't about you or the kids. I always came back to you and the girls." I wanted to scream, but my lawyer gave my hand a reassuring squeeze to keep me calm. Sophia continued, insisting that her affair had made her a better wife and mother. It was clear she was delusional if she thought I would simply accept her behavior. Sophia pleaded, but I looked at her in disbelief. My lawyer then redirected the meeting to focus on the main issues. The attorneys began their negotiations. I was ready to take the case to court if Sophia refused my terms. I wanted full custody of the kids and the house. She could have the bank accounts, her car, and even my car. As the attorneys exchanged emails and accumulated fees, my lawyer presented evidence of how little time Sophia had spent with the family over the past 3 years. This convinced Lily that going to court would not end well for Sophia. Reluctantly, Sophia agreed to my terms. My priority now was to minimize the impact on my daughters. Sophia initially refused to sign the divorce agreement. She was determined to keep her family intact and wasn't willing to settle. "What I did away from you, and the kids didn't affect them. You didn't lose anything while I was with Ethan. Why can't you just let me have something for myself?" she argued. Lily warned Sophia that if the case went to court, the judge would likely grant me custody of the children. Sophia couldn't bear the thought of losing them. Lily explained that dragging out the process would only lead to a settlement ordered by the court after a year anyway. Sophia had to decide if she wanted anything from the marriage and sign the agreement now. Sophia cried for hours, unable to focus on the paperwork. Lily guided her through the documents, pointing out where to sign. Sophia felt like she was signing away her marriage, her children, her home, and her entire life. When my attorney called to inform me that the signed documents were on their way via courier, I felt a mixture of relief and sadness. This afternoon, Lily notified my attorney that Sophia had agreed to the divorce. Sophia would have limited time with the children, who would live with me in our home. She had until the final divorce date to move out. We agreed on an equal division of our financial assets, and Sophia would receive half the house's value by our youngest child's 18th birthday plus 6 months. Sophia would contribute $100 a month per child for their education, adding up to $2,400 a year. We had an education fund for the girls, to which I had been contributing $500 monthly since their birth to ensure they could attend college without financial strain. Sophia would keep her car and could take any furniture she wanted for her new place. I even offered to buy bunk beds for the girls to use at her home. Ultimately, my goal was to minimize stress for the girls and myself. The constant uncertainty brought on by an unfaithful wife and an inattentive mother was wearing me down. With Sophia out of our lives, I hoped to manage things in a more organized and rational manner. Sophia could move on and do as she pleased, including spending time with the girls. If the girls didn't want to be with Sophia, I wouldn't force them. We could renegotiate the arrangement based on how things went. I hadn't yet looked for a new place to live or informed my family about the divorce. Ethan had said he couldn't take me in, which was a blow. I needed to talk to Michael. I found Michael in his home office. "Michael, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you want to talk about?" he replied, not looking up from his work. "I don't have anywhere to go. Do I have to leave? Can I stay here a bit longer?" I pleaded, feeling desperate. Michael glanced at me with a look of disbelief. "Sophia, you've had weeks to find a place. Where's your boyfriend? Why not stay with him?" I swallowed hard. "He can't take me in," I admitted. "Why not?" "You seem to enjoy being with him," Michael shot back, shaking his head. Then he walked away, leaving me alone with my mounting despair. I noticed the coffee maker in the kitchen and saw a stack of boxes in the living room, things Michael had packed for me. It was clear that Sophia was still not facing the reality of our impending divorce. She hadn't found a new place, hadn't contributed to the kids' tuition fund, and hadn't started packing her belongings. I had to call her lawyer and remind her that she had until midnight to move out. Knowing she wouldn't comply, I went to her bedroom and started dismantling the bed, lamps, and other furniture to move to the garage. "Sophia, do you need all this stuff? If you do, fine. If not, I'm selling it. Either way, it's leaving this house," I said firmly. She looked at me in shock as I continued moving things out. Sophia sat crying in the living room. "Come on, get up and get to work. If you need this stuff, do something about it. Otherwise, it's all gone," I urged her. After a while, she made a few phone calls. Then my phone rang. It was her father. "Michael, what the hell is going on?" Emily's voice was filled with confusion and anger. "Sophia says you're making her move out." "Emily, did she tell you why?" I asked, trying to stay calm. "Who cares why? Why are you making her leave?" he demanded. "It's a long story. Why don't you and Emily come over, and I'll explain everything," I suggested. They agreed to come in an hour. When Emily arrived, I told them about Sophia's affair with Ethan, showed them the divorce papers, and explained the final agreement. They were shocked and disappointed. They asked what my plans were, and I explained that my focus was on the kids and reorganizing the house. Emily asked if there was any way to save the marriage. I explained that I had made multiple attempts over the past 3 years, but Sophia had refused to end her affair. It was clear that her family had come second to her affair. I asked if they would consider taking Sophia in. Emily responded, "She got herself into this. She'll get herself out." They offered to help with the kids and then left. I called Ethan and asked him to put Sophia on the phone. When she answered, I said, "Your parents are really mad. Don't call them for a day or so. What are you doing with your stuff?" I continued, "I'm moving it to the garage. If you don't pick it up by next week, I'll give it away. Your choice." I then hung up. If Sophia didn't accept the divorce, she needed a dose of reality. Her strategy of ignoring issues and hoping others would accommodate her wasn't going to work this time. A week later, I called a moving company to pack up Sophia's belongings and put them in storage, hoping she'd eventually tell me where to send them. Sophia stayed with Ethan, who called me daily, pleading for me to take her back. I always responded, "She doesn't live here anymore." The first time he called, he hung up after muttering, "Crap?" Ethan even showed up at my office, desperate for me to reconsider. "You have to come and talk to her," he pleaded. "She's staying in my apartment, not working, and barely getting out of bed." "That's not my problem anymore," I replied. "You wanted her, now she's yours. Deal with it." I then called Sophia's parents, suggesting they visit her and consider psychiatric help since she seemed stuck in a rut. After that, I went home to make dinner for my daughters. The past few months had been challenging with a new schedule, reorganizing the house, and eventually selling it. We moved to a new place with a pool and a large driveway. I met a woman named Isabella after the divorce. We started spending more time together and decided to move in together. Isabella and her daughter, Ava, moved in with us, and it has worked out well so far. We have a good relationship, and the girls get along great. Ava treats me like her father, and Emma and Olivia treat her like a little sister. We travel often in the camper, exploring new places. The girls enjoy hiking, biking, and running around the campground. It's wonderful to see them playing freely without being overly organized. When we're glamping, we don't have to be helicopter parents. The best part is spending time with Michael, just the two of us. I can't believe Sophia let her ego get in the way and lost everything. She wanted it all but ended up losing her husband, children, and home. I hope she found what she was looking for. I certainly did. Over the weekend, I saw Michael and Isabella with the girls and Ava, all laughing and clearly enjoying themselves. They were eating ice cream as they walked, and Michael and Isabella were holding hands. That should have been me. Why does everything have to be so complicated? I don't have an answer. I probably made some mistakes and didn't realize Michael wouldn't like what I was doing. Ethan kicked me out, and we don't see each other anymore. I miss him, the kids, and Michael. I miss his touch, his smile, and lying next to him at night. I miss my home and my old life.